The Grand Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is nestled within the Arabian Peninsula, a region adorned with the treasures of liquid gold, oil. Yet amidst its glistening splendor, murmurs of uncertainty drift through the air.
Price of oil is going to be in about 6 months, up or down.
If I were to know what the price of oil 6 months from now, I would be in Las Vegas.
Once a radiant gem, this kingdom now stands on the brink of transformation. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, Saudi Arabia must reinvent itself to survive in a world where oil's reign is waning. But what strategies does the kingdom employ in this turbulent period? How does it navigate the path to reinvention and prosperity in a world where oil relinquishes its throne? Join us as we reveal the truth about how Saudi Arabia destroys itself and it's nearly over. The golden resource of Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's economic prowess and global influence are intricately intertwined with its boundless oil reserves. Imagine the vast expanses of desert, where beneath the scorching sun lie hidden treasures that have shaped the destiny of a nation. The discovery of oil in the 1930s in Saudi Arabia was nothing short of a transformative miracle, elevating the once impoverished desert kingdom into a wealthy powerhouse. The gleaming cities amidst the sands are fueled by the black gold that flows beneath. The oil industry's dominion also extends far and wide, permeating every facet of the economy and government coffers. Saudi Arabia reigns supreme atop some of the world's largest and most accessible oil reserves, second only to Venezuela. Yet, no reserve is more renowned than the Grand Ghawar field, a veritable titan that alone commands nearly half of the nation's oil production. These reserves, not merely vast but astonishingly cost-effective to extract, grant Saudi Arabia an unparalleled advantage on the global stage. Unlike Venezuela's formidable yet challenging oil deposits, Saudi Arabia's riches lie tantalizingly close to the surface, ripe for the plucking. The oil wells churn out barrels of liquid wealth at a production cost as minimal as $4, giving the kingdom an edge over its competitors. At the heart of Saudi Arabia's supremacy lies its mastery over vast reserves of oil, constituting nearly a quarter of the world's proven reserves. As recently as 2018, the petroleum industry loomed large over the Saudi landscape, its dominion extending over a staggering 87% of the government's annual budget, 90% of export earnings, and a formidable 42% of the nation's GDP. For decades, Saudi Arabia stood as the unrivaled titan of oil production, its prowess matched only by the United States and Russia, collectively known as the Big Three of global oil production. Yet, it is Saudi Arabia's role as the world's largest oil exporter that truly sets it apart on the global stage. But with great reliance comes great vulnerability. The kingdom's heavy dependence on oil renders it susceptible to the volatile whims of the global market. In times of plenty, when oil prices soar, Saudi Arabia basks in prosperity, funding ambitious ventures and extending its influence far beyond its borders. But when the tides turn, plunging oil prices bring forth budget deficits, diminished investments, and the specter of social unrest. How Saudi became a global petroleum powerhouse. Let's journey back to when Saudi Arabia's petroleum was yet to be discovered. In the middle of the Arabian Peninsula, where the big desert called Najd spread out, an isolated area existed. In this remote backwater, a strict interpretation of Sunni Islam known as Wahhabism gradually took root, shaping the region's destiny in ways no one could have foreseen. Amid the desolate landscapes, two obscure family clans, the House of Saud and the Wahhab clan, formed an unlikely alliance. Together, they forged the foundations of what would become the first Saudi state, defying the odds and laying the groundwork for a future kingdom. Through the tumultuous 18th and 19th centuries, these nascent Saudi states rose and fell, buffeted by internal strife and external threats. Yet, from the ashes of defeat, a determined young man emerged, Ibn Saud, driven by a fierce ambition to reclaim his family's legacy. In 1902, Armed with little more than a band of loyal followers, Ibn Saud embarked on a daring campaign to recapture Riyadh, his family's ancestral seat. His audacious conquest marked the beginning of a relentless march across Arabia as he sought to unite the fragmented lands under his rule. At first, the world paid little heed to the struggles unfolding in this remote corner of the globe. The sparse population and barren landscapes of early 20th century Arabia seemed inconsequential to the great powers of the day. But as World War I engulfed the world, the geopolitical landscape shifted. The British, seeking allies in the region, threw their support behind Ibn Saud, tipping the scales in his favor. With British backing and a formidable army of Wahhabi warriors at his command, Ibn Saud's conquests accelerated. By the 1920s, the sands of Najd had yielded to his relentless advance, and Ibn Saud's realm stretched across the Arabian Peninsula. The fall of the Ottoman Empire further bolstered his position as British support waned, and Ibn Saud emerged as the undisputed ruler of Arabia. In 1932, Ibn Saud proclaimed the birth of a new kingdom, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, with himself as its absolute monarch. Yet the path to nationhood was fraught with challenges. Religious tensions simmered, and internal divisions threatened to tear the fledgling kingdom apart. To consolidate his power, Ibn Saud took drastic measures, marrying into rival tribes and siring a vast progeny to secure alliances. But even as the kingdom took shape, its future remained uncertain. Struggling to find its footing, the young kingdom relied on the modest revenues from religious tourism to sustain itself. With a tiny tax base and a population mired in poverty, the kingdom's prospects seemed bleak. Yet beneath the sands of Najd lay a treasure that would transform Saudi Arabia's fortunes forever: oil. In a fateful twist of fate, American prospectors struck black gold, unlocking vast reserves that would fuel the kingdom's rise to prominence on the world stage. With oil as its newfound wealth, Saudi Arabia emerged as a global powerhouse, shaping the destiny of the Arab world and beyond. The influence Saudi Arabia wields on the global market. Saudi Arabia's pivotal role as the linchpin of the world oil market hinges upon its ability to sway global prices through strategic production maneuvers. As the largest exporter and wielder of substantial spare capacity, the kingdom holds the power to stabilize prices or wield them as a cudgel against rivals. This authority was starkly evident during the 1973 oil embargo, a watershed moment where Saudi Arabia's actions sent shockwaves through the global economy. In 1973, during the Arab-Israeli War, tensions escalated as Arab members of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, retaliated against the United States for its decision to resupply the Israeli military. This retaliation took the form of an oil embargo, a strategic move aimed at gaining leverage in the post-war peace negotiations. However, the embargo wasn't solely directed at the U.S. It also targeted other nations perceived to support Israel, such as the Netherlands, Portugal, and South Africa. The impact of the embargo was twofold. First, it prohibited the export of petroleum to the targeted nations, and second, it led to significant cuts in oil production. This double blow sent shockwaves through the global economy, as oil was and still is a vital resource for transportation, manufacturing, and energy production. But the embargo wasn't an isolated event. Rather, it was the culmination of several years of tension between oil-producing nations and oil companies. Prior negotiations had already strained the decades-old pricing system, creating a volatile environment that only worsened when the embargo was imposed. The effects of the embargo were far-reaching, causing oil prices to skyrocket and triggering an energy crisis in many parts of the world. In response, affected nations scrambled to find alternative sources of energy and sought diplomatic solutions to alleviate the embargo's impact. This period marked a significant turning point in global geopolitics and energy policy, underscoring the critical role that Saudi Arabia oil plays in shaping international relations. While America may only import a fraction of its oil from the kingdom today, the ripples of Saudi decisions resonate far beyond its borders, echoing in the corridors of power worldwide. Imagine when the world was thrown into turmoil by geopolitical upheaval, where the invasion of Ukraine by Russian forces triggered a cascade of events that reverberated across continents. As sanctions against Russia disrupted global oil markets, prices soared, casting a shadow of uncertainty over economies reliant on this precious commodity. With oil prices ascending to unprecedented heights, the Biden administration turned to Saudi Arabia, beseeching the kingdom to unleash its spare capacity and flood the market with oil. Yet, the response from Riyadh was unexpected, as Saudi Arabia opts to curtail production, exacerbating global supply shortages and fueling inflationary pressures. It is this mastery over the global oil market that earns Saudi Arabia the moniker of the Central Bank of World Oil, a testament to its unrivaled clout in shaping the economic destiny of nations. In recent years, the kingdom has deftly wielded its oil market clout to pursue geopolitical and economic objectives. From engaging in price wars to coordinating production cuts with OPEC+ members, Saudi Arabia maneuvers its vast resources to navigate the ever-shifting currents of global politics and economics. However, its supremacy in the oil realm is not absolute, requiring a delicate balancing act between self-interest and international relations. Renewable energy. Bad news for Saudi's economy. On the horizon looms a profound paradigm shift, one that threatens to upend the very foundations of Saudi Arabia's oil-based economy. The world stands at the precipice of a new era, driven by environmental concerns, technological innovations, and ambitious government policies aimed at weaning society off fossil fuels. Governments worldwide are charting ambitious paths towards a greener future, setting targets to slash greenhouse gas emissions and phase out fossil fuel reliance. From the Paris Agreement's lofty goals to individual nations' bans on gasoline and diesel vehicles, the momentum towards alternative energy sources is palpable. Witness the rise of electric vehicles, powered not by petrol but by the boundless energy of tomorrow. With advancements in battery technology and plummeting costs, EVs are poised to revolutionize transportation, spelling a seismic shift away from traditional combustion engines. Advances in energy storage, from sleek batteries to futuristic hydrogen fuel cells, promise to revolutionize the integration of renewables into the grid. Major automakers are heeding the clarion call, pledging to transition towards all-electric fleets in the coming decades. Furthermore, renewable energy sources such as solar and wind power are gaining traction, emerging as viable alternatives to fossil fuels. Governments are investing in infrastructure and incentivizing adoption, heralding a new dawn where sustainability reigns supreme. Also, governments, spurred by the urgency of climate change, are setting audacious goals for renewable energy adoption. Policymakers craft bold strategies to steer their nations towards a greener future. Investments pour into research and development, driving down costs and unlocking the full potential of renewable technologies. As the winds of change gather momentum, whispers of a paradigm shift reverberate through the corridors of industry. Experts ponder the possibility of a peak in global oil demand, a watershed moment that could reshape the energy landscape for generations to come. Some forecasters predict this tipping point could arrive as early as the late 2020s, while others envision a more gradual decline stretching into mid-century and beyond. As the world marches inexorably towards a future less reliant on oil, Saudi Arabia finds itself at a crossroads. The sands of time are shifting, and the kingdom must navigate this uncertain terrain with foresight and innovation, lest it be left behind in the annals of history. The journey ahead is fraught with challenges, but within the crucible of change lies the promise of a brighter, more sustainable tomorrow. How Saudi Arabia plans to overcome its economic challenges. In response to these existential challenges, Saudi Arabia embarked on a visionary journey of transformation with Vision 2030. Envision a tapestry of innovation and ambition, woven with threads of diversification and modernization. At the heart of Vision 2030 lies a bold vision to cultivate new economic frontiers and unlock the nation's potential beyond oil. This vision is the brainchild of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, launched back in 2016. The comprehensive strategy aims to modernize the country's economy, reduce its dependence on oil, and attract international investment. The plan has already spurred significant reforms, with more on the horizon. They're looking to shake things up in the mining industry. Did you know that Saudi Arabia holds a whopping 7% of the world's phosphate reserves? And that's not all. They also have significant deposits of bauxite, gold, copper, and zinc too. With the world moving towards greener technologies, these commodities are expected to be in high demand. But mining only accounted for a measly 4% of Saudi GDP in 2015. Vision 2030 wants to change that, aiming to double mining's contribution to the economy and create a whopping 90,000 new jobs in the sector. Another of the most notable changes came in 2018 when Saudi Arabia finally allowed women to drive, a milestone moment in the kingdom's history. Additionally, there have been adjustments to public dress codes, aiming to encourage women's participation in the workforce. Moreover, Saudi Arabia is aggressively promoting tourism, both religious and secular, as a key pillar of Vision 2030. Major projects are underway, including massive developments around Mecca to enhance religious tourism. Every Muslim is supposed to visit Mecca at least once in their lifetime, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman wants to quadruple the number of annual visitors compared to 2015. Even though there has been a little setback during the pandemic, visitor numbers doubled in 2018. Iconic structures like the Jeddah Tower and the Red Sea Islands mega project are set to attract non-religious tourists, showcasing the kingdom's commitment to diversifying its tourism sector. There is also the sprawling entertainment complex of Qiddiya. In line with this, Saudi Arabia secured its own spot on the Formula One calendar, highlighting its growing appeal as a destination for international events. The announcement of Riyadh Air, a new airline, and plans to purchase Boeing Dreamliners underscore the kingdom's efforts to bolster its aviation sector. Now let's talk infrastructure. Neom is a futuristic zero-carbon city that's set to be an absolute game-changer, and Saudi Arabia is planning to build it. It's going to be a 100-mile-long mirror skyscraper. The crown jewel of the Vision 2030 endeavor is this Neom, a futuristic city poised to redefine the boundaries of possibility, spanning across borders and embracing innovation in all its forms. But diversifying away from oil is no walk in the park. Just look at Norway, often hailed as a success story in diversification. Despite their best efforts, oil and gas still make up half of Norway's exports by value. And guess what? Saudi Arabia isn't the only player in town. Countries like the UAE are also gunning for the same goal, and some are already way ahead in the race. But it's not all doom and gloom. Saudi Arabia's recent international bond issuing has been a hit, showing that investors are interested. To finance these endeavors and reduce reliance on oil revenues, Saudi Arabia is establishing a new sovereign wealth fund. With investments ranging from hundreds of billions to trillions of dollars globally, the aim is to ensure long-term financial stability and reduce dependence on oil exports. To secure its position, Saudi Arabia seeks continued support from the United States, its long-standing ally. However, Washington's reluctance to meet Saudi demands for security guarantees and nuclear cooperation complicates matters. Riyadh's willingness to make concessions, such as recognizing Israel, reflects its urgency to maintain U.S. backing amidst shifting geopolitical dynamics. However, Vision 2030 also poses significant challenges. The relaxation of religious laws to accommodate tourists from the Western world may stir dissent among traditionalists, potentially leading to internal instability. External rivalry affecting Saudi Arabia's progress. Overcoming decades of oil dependency and fostering a culture of innovation will require nothing short of a cultural revolution. Imagine a nation in transition, grappling with the legacy of its past while striving towards a brighter tomorrow. The road ahead is fraught with obstacles, from bureaucratic hurdles to entrenched interests, but the kingdom presses forward with unwavering resolve. Saudi Arabia finds itself at a crossroads, poised between the promise of progress and the perils of geopolitical turmoil. While the kingdom boasts immense potential, it still grapples with challenges that hinder its ascent on global indices of ease of doing business and transparency. Imagine a landscape where opportunities beckon amidst the shadows of bureaucracy and opacity, awaiting the transformative touch of reform. Foreign investment and talent are coveted treasures, yet their acquisition requires Saudi Arabia to shed its cloak of secrecy and embrace greater openness and accountability. As the country endeavors to implement its ambitious reform agenda, it must navigate a complex geopolitical labyrinth fraught with threats and obstacles. Foremost among the geopolitical challenges is the age-old rivalry with Iran, a simmering conflict that spans the Middle East. The echoes of historical animosity reverberate through proxy wars and sectarian tensions, casting a shadow over regional stability. Remember the battlegrounds of Yemen, Syria, and Iraq, where Saudi Arabia and Iran vie for influence through competing factions, fueling a cycle of violence and uncertainty. In Yemen, Saudi Arabia leads a coalition against Houthi rebels aligned with Iran, embroiled in a protracted conflict with no end in sight. Witness the devastation wrought by missile strikes on Saudi territory, a stark reminder of the kingdom's vulnerability to external aggression. Syria, too, has become a battleground in the Saudi-Iranian rivalry, exacerbating regional instability and providing fertile ground for extremist groups. Saudi Arabia's support for rebel factions pits it against the Assad regime backed by Iran and Russia, straining diplomatic relations and complicating efforts for a peaceful resolution. However, Saudi Arabia is keen to avoid external conflicts while navigating internal tensions, evident in their recent peace agreement with Iran and efforts to end the Yemen war. Amidst these geopolitical quagmires, Saudi Arabia's relationship with the United States faces scrutiny and strain. The murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi cast a shadow over bilateral ties, prompting calls for a reassessment of the long-standing alliance. The death of Jamal Ahmad Khashoggi. Jamal Ahmad Khashoggi, a prominent Saudi journalist and dissident, met a tragic fate on October 2, 2018. He was assassinated inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul by Saudi government agents, allegedly acting on the orders of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Khashoggi's career spanned various roles, including columnist for Middle East Eye and The Washington Post, as well as serving as the general manager and editor-in-chief of Al Arab news channel. His work often challenged the Saudi establishment, advocating for freedom of speech and political reform. When news of Jamal Khashoggi's assassination broke, it sent shockwaves around the world. Diplomats and journalists in the United States were appalled, adding fuel to the fire of long-standing doubts about the US-Saudi alliance. Meanwhile, across the pond, the European Union and its member states were furious, with the incident sparking outrage that reverberated across the continent. But here's the thing: the story doesn't end there. Instead of owning up to the allegations, the Saudi government went into damage control mode. As part of their Vision 2030 strategy, they decided to pump billions into the world of elite sports. They bought an English Premier League soccer team, creating a rival golf tour that attracted top players, hosting a Formula One Grand Prix, and signing star athletes like Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Sounds impressive, right? Well, it's all part of a larger plan. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, or MBS as he's often called, claims it's about boosting tourism revenue. But critics aren't buying it. They argue it's a clever PR move, a tactic known as sports washing. By showcasing Saudi Arabia as a modern, progressive nation through sports, MBS hopes to distract from ongoing human rights concerns And while these investments might seem like pocket change for Saudi Arabia, they're a big deal on the global stage. But let's shift our focus closer to home. In the Middle East, the reaction to Khashoggi's murder was somewhat subdued. For many, it was just another reminder of MBS's controversial track record, from Yemen to Syria to the diplomatic spat with Qatar. However, there are two players in this geopolitical game that often fly under the radar: Russia and China. Saudi Arabia's relationship with other countries. Let's dive into the complex web of international relations, starting with Russia. Historically, their ties with Saudi Arabia have been rocky. Russia didn't forget Saudi's support for the Mujahideen during the Soviet-Afghan War, while Saudi Arabia remained wary of Russia's alliance with Iran, especially in conflicts like Syria's civil war. But sometimes, unexpected events reveal shared interests. In the aftermath of Khashoggi's assassination, Russian President Vladimir Putin downplayed the incident, citing a lack of conclusive evidence. This wasn't the first time Putin had extended a diplomatic favor to MBS. Despite past tensions, the two leaders had already begun cooperating on reducing oil output back in 2016, a partnership that endured through various challenges, including a brief oil war in 2020. By 2021, they even signed a military cooperation agreement. Now let's shift our focus to China. Since 2014, China has been Saudi Arabia's top economic partner, primarily as a major buyer of Saudi oil. However, the relationship took on new significance under MBS's leadership. He publicly supported China's policies in Xinjiang, where the Uyghur Muslim minority faced repression. This vocal support paved the way for closer ties. Shortly after, discussions began to align Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 with China's Belt and Road Initiative, leading to a surge in trade between the two nations. In late 2022, during a state visit, China and Saudi Arabia upgraded their relationship to a comprehensive strategic partnership, signaling a new chapter in their alliance. When we zoom out, the mutual interests of Saudi Arabia with both Russia and China become clearer. China's hunger for energy dovetails neatly with Saudi Arabia's oil exports, while Russia seeks to bolster its oil revenue, especially post-Ukraine invasion. For MBS, strengthening ties with these global powers aligns with his Vision 2030 goals of economic diversification and geopolitical influence. However, these newfound relationships didn't materialize in a vacuum. They were facilitated by shifts in Saudi Arabia's relationship with the United States. During Trump's presidency, the U.S.-Saudi ties were warmer, with Trump overlooking human rights concerns and prioritizing arms deals. This cozy dynamic gave MBS a sense of legitimacy on the world stage. But then came the 2020 election, and everything changed. The Abraham Accords, signed just 2 months before the election, reshaped Middle Eastern politics, showcasing a new era of diplomatic realignment. As Saudi Arabia recalibrated its alliances, its relationships with Russia and China grew stronger, marking a pivotal moment in the region's geopolitical landscape. Tension between religious beliefs and modern advancements. The Saudi government finds itself at a critical juncture, navigating the delicate balance between progress and tradition, reform and resistance. Within the kingdom's borders, echoes of dissent reverberate from conservative quarters, where pushback against reforms, particularly on issues like women's rights and entertainment, threatens to disrupt the tide of change. As we mentioned, there is a clash of ideologies, where the forces of conservatism collide with the winds of modernization, testing the limits of the government's resolve. In 2018, a wave of arrests sent shockwaves through the kingdom, as prominent clerics and intellectuals faced persecution for daring to criticize the government's reform agenda. This crackdown served as a chilling reminder of the authorities' determination to quell dissent, signaling a warning to those who dare to challenge the status quo. Yet, the specter of a broader conservative backlash looms large, casting a shadow of uncertainty over the path to reform. Amidst the sea of social change, another storm brews on the horizon, threatening to engulf the kingdom in waves of unemployment and social unrest. Saudi Arabia's youth, a burgeoning demographic powerhouse, stand at the precipice of uncertainty, grappling with the prospect of dwindling opportunities in a shifting economic landscape. For generations, public sector employment and state subsidies have been the bedrock of social stability. But as the government seeks to trim the fat and realign its economic priorities, the risk of discontent and disillusionment grows ever more palpable. Official statistics paint a sobering picture, with unemployment rates soaring, particularly among the youth. Imagine the faces of young Saudis, brimming with ambition, yet shackled by a lack of opportunity as they navigate the treacherous waters of an economy in transition. The government's efforts to diversify the job market and nurture entrepreneurship are commendable, but the road ahead is fraught with challenges, from skill shortages to bureaucratic hurdles, leaving many teetering on the brink of despair. Beyond the confines of domestic politics, Saudi Arabia looks to the lessons of history for guidance, mindful of the perils that await those who tread the path of the resource curse. Venezuela, once hailed as an oil-rich paradise, now stands as a cautionary tale of economic mismanagement and political turmoil. Envision a nation plunged into chaos, its economy in freefall, its people fleeing in droves in search of a better life. The experiences of Venezuela, Nigeria, Angola, and Iraq serve as stark reminders of the pitfalls of over-reliance on oil revenues. Corruption, weak governance, and social inequality fester in the shadows of petrostates, stifling progress and perpetuating cycles of poverty. As Saudi Arabia charts its course towards a more sustainable and inclusive future, it must heed these warnings, building strong institutions, fostering economic diversification, and empowering its people to break free from the shackles of dependency. In the crucible of change, the kingdom stands poised to rewrite its destiny, forging a path towards a brighter tomorrow. Yet, the road ahead is fraught with uncertainty and challenges, demanding courage, resilience, and foresight from its leaders and its people alike. As the sands of time shift and the winds of change blow, Saudi Arabia stands at a crossroads where the choices made today will shape the course of history for generations to come. The unpredictable future of Saudi Arabia. Amidst the tumultuous currents of change, Saudi Arabia grapples with the imperative of wise investment, seeking to harness its oil revenues as a catalyst for long-term prosperity rather than succumbing to the allure of short-term gains. Imagine a treasury overflowing with wealth, where the choices made today shape the destiny of future generations. Sovereign wealth funds emerge as bastions of financial prudence, safeguarding the kingdom's riches for posterity, while strategic investments in education, health, and infrastructure lay the foundation for a thriving society. At the heart of this transformation lies the imperative of strong, transparent institutions, where accountability and rule of law reign supreme. Envision watchdogs of governance, vigilant in their pursuit of transparency and integrity, fostering a culture of trust and accountability. Independent oversight bodies emerge as guardians of the public trust, wielding their authority to uphold the sanctity of the nation's coffers and promote equitable distribution of wealth. Yet, the journey towards economic resilience and social progress is fraught with challenges, demanding a paradigm shift away from state-led development towards a vibrant, inclusive private sector. Picture a landscape teeming with entrepreneurship and innovation, where barriers to entry crumble before the tide of opportunity. Strategic partnerships with international investors breathe new life into the economy, infusing it with fresh capital, technology, and expertise, propelling Saudi Arabia towards a future of prosperity. Despite these strides, the kingdom stands at a crossroads, where the choices made today will shape the contours of its future. In the realm of possibility lies the promise of gradual success, where Saudi Arabia emerges as a beacon of progress and innovation, a regional powerhouse poised to thrive in the 21st century. Conversely, the specter of a darker future looms large, where faltering reform efforts and economic stagnation plunge the kingdom into turmoil. In the most dire scenario, Saudi Arabia teeters on the brink of collapse, torn apart by internal strife and external pressures, with repercussions that reverberate far beyond its borders. As the kingdom charts its course through the uncharted waters of reform, the road ahead is fraught with uncertainty and peril. Yet, within the crucible of challenge lies the opportunity for renewal and resilience. With bold leadership and unwavering determination, Saudi Arabia has the potential to carve out a future defined by prosperity, progress, and peace, setting an example for nations around the world to follow. Thanks for watching. See you in our next video.